Hello everybody and welcome to another Walking Dead video, and today we do my review for The Walking Dead Season 11 Episode 22, Faith. And this episode has a lot going on, so let's jump right into this because there's a lot to unpack in this episode. So this episode has not one but 4 different plots, and these 4 plots are the prisoners at Alexandria, which is focusing on Negan and Ezekiel trying to build their rebellion. When we have Aaron's group who end up meeting Luke and we find out what happens to Oceanside. And then we have the Eugene's trial, which is about Yumiko trying to do Eugene's trial and Eugene ultimately losing his trial. And then we have the final one, which is broken into 2 differents. We have Daryl's group, which is everyone that was outside Alexandria trying to break into Alexandria, and it focuses on Daryl and Connie going underground, and then Maggie and Carol going into and trying to stealth around Alexandria. So there is a lot going on here, and I'm going to be honest, every plot was gripping. It was good. There's not a plot which I was like, I don't care, I want to go back to the other plot, like episode 19 for example. Even though the episode's mostly about Eugene, I only cared about the Aaron plot, so I was really kind of disappointed with the episode. This episode, there isn't a plot which I don't like, and that's great. So I'm not sitting there looking at my watch whenever a certain character like the Eugene plot's on. I'm not like, oh, when we going back to Daryl or when we go back to Negan. I'm very happy, and each plot does have a good vibe, and it is welcoming to be like, yes, I will happily sit and watch this. However, there are some negatives. As there's so many plots going on, I feel like some plots do suffer, and some plots should have been put into maybe last week's episode. Like examples like the Aaron plot, I feel like that one suffers the most, even though I feel like it's very important to the final episodes, them setting up these new walkers we saw in one episode and we haven't seen them since this episode, and all they really do in that plot is, oh, we found Luke, welcome back Luke, we finally found you, welcome to Oceanside. Oh yeah, Oceanside was destroyed. It'd be cool if we saw that and wasn't told that afterwards. It's like they didn't have the budget to show Oceanside being destroyed. Really sucked. Maybe we should have seen that. I just feel like we should have seen Oceanside being destroyed instead of Luke going like, yeah, Oceanside's gone. Then after that, what happens then? Well, they get surrounded by walkers coming on one side, they hear Commonwealth troops coming on the other side, they put on guts, and the next time we see them is they are currently in a horde walking towards what I presume is the Commonwealth. And that's really all that happens in that plot. And we do see Lydia drop a knife and then a variant walker pick up the knife. That's it. And I feel like that plot definitely needs more fleshing out, and we should have got way more. And maybe we should have seen at the start of this episode, it could have followed Luke, and we could have seen them escaping the Commonwealth and then hearing the massacre. If we can't see it because of budgetary reasons, at least show the aftermath of them leaving Oceanside while it's been destroyed. That would have been better. So there's a little issue there with the Aaron plot, which I really liked, but I feel like it was lacking. Another plot which I felt like suffered was the everyone trying to get into Alexandria plot, which is broken into 2 parts. And the first one, okay, half this plot is fine with Maggie and Carol dealing with trying to find everyone and Maggie having little breakdowns. That was good. But I feel like the Daryl and Connie one, it's just kind of there, and really the only filler thing that's in this episode. They're just kind of in the sewers talking, and then they appear up at the end. And it's another episode where they've sidelined Daryl, which is really annoying. Imagine in like the early seasons of The Walking Dead where they constantly sideline Rick. That would have been so annoying if we always had our protagonist sidelined and not really impacting the story until when the writers remember, oh wait, Daryl's the main character. Let's say he comes in right at the end of the episode and does the big kill. Okay, Daryl comes in at the end of the episode and he does one thing this entire episode, when you're like, okay, why did Ezekiel not do it? Why did Negan not do it? Why did anyone who would have actually had some sort of personal like vendetta against this character actually go and do the kill, instead of Daryl just walks in out of nowhere, stab, I'm the protagonist. I just didn't like Daryl again. Like, it's another episode where Daryl has annoyed me for how much he's been shafted in these episodes. Let's move back to the positives and talk about the other 2 plots, which is the Eugene trial and the Negan plot, basically. And they're both really good. They are the main focus of this episode, and they are both very gripping. There's basically no action in this episode. However, it is very character focused, and I'm okay with that. Someone who really likes action, this episode dealt with character focus episodes so well, with like the little dialogue between Ezekiel and Negan and their back and forth of them trying to fight each other. However, they need to try and team up reluctantly. I really liked that. We did get some really cool Negan scenes. I really like Negan throughout this entire episode, and he's definitely the MVP. Eugene and Yumiko definitely stole their scenes in their plot, and especially Eugene. I thought Pamela was okay. I do have to mention though that the courtroom scenes, I did think the set was a bit cheap because it's the same set they use for the train station. Why do they not have a courtroom set? It's like they ran out of money and the Commonwealth just feels very tiny. I have to complain about the set because they're just reusing the train station set. I just thought it's very dumb. Other than that one plot with that one issue I have with them just reusing that set, the cinematography is quite nice throughout the entire episode. There's nothing special. We don't have any special shots. It's just a very well shot episode. Just because they're using digital now instead of film, so everything looks very pretty. And I would have to mention the music is amazing because they brung back the Pamela villain music. I really like her theme. Whenever you see her on screen, she's talking, you have that little theme in the background. And I really like the music throughout this entire episode because there are very important moments in this episode. And the music just builds that suspense. A major scene which I really, really love is the kind of execution scene where all the prisoners get dragged out of Alexandria and we see Negan. And even though we know Negan's gonna survive, and I was thinking at the start of the scene, like, okay, this is gonna be so boring, we know Negan's fine, but you get really caught up in the moment because Jeffrey D. Morgan's acting is so good and how the scene is so well and the music's so good, you forget that Negan's safe. And you're like, oh god, are they actually going to do it? And then they pull out Annie, and you're like, oh no. And that scene overall was one of the best scenes I've seen in The Walking Dead. And I would have to say that's one of my best moments in Season 11 so far. I really like that one scene where we have all the prisoners stand up. And you actually believe, oh wait, could they do it? It's so well shot. It is just so well made. I really have to mention that one scene near the end of the episode is just absolutely perfect. One surprise that I thought going into this episode is because there's so much going on. You would think there might be a pacing issue, but no, the pacing is perfect. However, I would say I would have liked this episode to be slightly longer because it does feel like there is more to tell and you could flesh out some stories that have suffered a little. But overall, looking at how it is, it's quite perfect, the pacing is. It's just I could see them extending certain stories so we can see more of the Aaron plot. See more of maybe Daryl to make his plot more useful. It's just there are bits you can improve, but currently in its current state, I really like it. The pacing's fun. And I will have to say this episode is basically 100% not filler other than the small Daryl thing, just so they can be like, Daryl, we don't want you in this episode. But other than the Daryl thing, this episode is all needed, and everything in this episode builds up to this amazing ending. And I have to talk about the ending. I'll try not to spoil it, but I've already mentioned the great scenes with Negan at that end of that plot, but I really do have to say the best ending in this is going to have to go to the Eugene plot, and the ending with Eugene being found guilty, and then we see Mercer, and Mercer changing sides is absolutely perfect, and it's way better than it is in the comics. The comics, it was very sudden, and you're like, whoa, but Mercer changing sides, it was a thing that was like kind of teased throughout the episode, and we saw going into previous episodes, watching previous episodes, he was not happy, but this moment, and he gets the big F bomb at the end of this episode, and it was so good. I'm really happy they're using the swear words now because The Walking Dead really needed it, and it's been so cool to see that in season 8 or 7 with Negan. But damn, that ending really hooked me, and I will have to mention this is one of the best endings we got because I've hooked. I want to see the next episode right now, and going for a couple previous episodes where I've been like, I hated the ending, I could watch The Walking Dead in a couple of weeks and not care. This ending left me wanting more, which is what a show should do. We also get a few more CRM teasers. However, I don't think the CRM will be a big part in this show, just because we're literally 2 episodes away and we've only been teased the CRM, so I think it should be found out that the CRM are supplying the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth are supplying them people. I think that's all that will happen, and they'll find out Rick by that. I think the CRM will be mentioned, but we won't see them like we do on Fear, which kind of sucks because Fear gets the CRM all the time, but why does The Walking Dead not? So it's really dumb. I also have to mention that I feel like the episodes, and we're in the final 2 episodes now, the story does feel a little too small for the final season. Why? I love this episode, but why are we getting it this late? Maybe if we had it earlier, so we had a bigger drawn out fight. I just feel like the last 2 episodes really have to hammer in the big explosion bombastic ending because the previous 22 episodes haven't set that up too well. So going into these last 2 episodes, they have a lot to do to give me this big climactic finale feeling and stuff that I want, because currently it's just very small and the story is kind of still quite small. I feel like this is on the same level as maybe or smaller than the Whisperer story. The Whisperer just felt very big, but this Commonwealth arc doesn't really feel very big in finale yet. I do have to mention, and this is a little thing that's been griping me each episode while we're going to the final 8 episodes, no big deaths again. This episode had a perfect moment and a perfect, very impactful scene to kill off a couple characters. Kill off maybe Kelly, or kill off Annie. But no, everything just kind of gets fixed suddenly, and it worked in the moment. However, looking back at it, I'd rather someone died. I'm getting really annoyed. No characters are dying in the final season. I look at Game of Thrones, imagine the long night on The Walking Dead. A type of episode like that where 5 main characters die. We haven't got that because the writers of The Walking Dead, Angela Kang and all her little writers, are too scared to kill off characters. They haven't killed off a big character properly since season 10, episode 7, which is Sadiq. Like, no one really, you don't count Alden, he wasn't really a big character, he was a C-list character. And now we're in the final, 2 episodes, still no one dies. So we have to, I really want 2 characters to die in episode 23, and then maybe another 2 in episode 24, because if we don't, I'm going to have a real big issue. Now let's move on to one sentence, one word over review, and overall this episode is very well paced, no filler, the acting is amazing, it's very character focused, no action, which I'm okay with. I wouldn't be okay with it, but I loved it. Every part of this episode is needed, and it is all gripping, the ending is amazing, and it really sets up the final 2 episodes. I do feel this episode should be slightly longer, but as it currently is, it is still great. I wouldn't say this is perfect. There are a few things that could be fixed, especially giving Daryl a bigger role in this episode. But other than that, I would have to say I loved this episode, and my one sentence / one word over review would definitely be, this is an amazing episode. It is just so good, and definitely my favourite episode this 8. I really loved episode 17, but I feel like I prefer this one over 17. It's that good. And it's definitely one of my favourite episodes this season. But please tell me down below, what do you think about this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your pros and cons of this episode? And give me an overall rating, okay? But this is it for me today. So if you want more Walking Dead content, please look on the screen. If you want the previous review, look in the top right. And if you want something that is recommended for you, look in the bottom. And if you want my latest video, look in the top left. But this is it for me today. And if you want more Walking Dead content, keep up to date with all things Walking Dead. There'll be 2 videos a week every week. So make sure to subscribe to my channel to keep up to date with all that and to help out my channel. But this is it for me today. So goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you at a later date.